Hello fellow cinephiles, 90s Film Guru here. Thanks for joining me today. For those who are new to the channel, my name's Sean, also known as the 90s Film Guru, and I started this channel, have my say about movies and TV show from the 90s, pretty much everything from the 90s, so welcome. Today I'll be reviewing House on Haunted Hill remake. This came out in 1999. It was directed by William Malone. It was based upon probably the most successful film that producer, director, writer William Castle ever made, that came out in the 1950s. William Castle was a film mogul and producer, and he's kind of what Roger Corman became before Roger Corman. He was making simple films that were sort of horror based with small budgets, and he was the king of gimmicks. He would always do sort of interesting and unique gimmicks. 13 Ghosts, he had this sort of thing that people got where they could look in a red strip or a blue strip whether they wanted to see the ghost or not see the ghost, and then at the end of the film he returns and says, now take it home and use it. And I thought that was kind of interesting gimmick. And with House on Haunted Hill was another one where he had gimmicks that he would use. There was a skeleton attached to the roof of the cinema and would fly past the audience every now and again with particular sequences. And I thought that was really clever. No one really does that anymore. And with this remake, they tried to do something. They had this sort of scratchy card that they gave to audiences, mostly in America, I gather. And they had the opportunity to win things. So it was kind of a little gimmicky thing in paying homage to the great William Castle, who I'm a huge fan of and enjoying going back through his film catalogue. And I really want to read his book. He's just a fascinating guy. And the film he had most success with, mainly just as a producer, was Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. This is a film he developed and was interested in, and he really wanted to direct it, but they didn't think he could, and he ultimately wasn't able to. And it was kind of a regret for him, I think. He really wanted to be able to direct this and he couldn't. He felt like this was his opportunity to break free of this stigma that he had on him making schlocky movies, and he really wanted to do something really great, but he just couldn't. But his House on Haunted Hill is definitely classified as a masterpiece, which I think is interesting. So I'm kind of interested in this remake. Now, look, once again, like Psycho, I was first introduced to House on Haunted Hill. I saw it at the cinema. And this was long before I even had seen the original. And I hadn't seen the original until years later. And I still really enjoyed it. But there was just something about the remake I liked more, but it's interpretation. I even remember when I went to this movie, went into the cinema with people were there, we were watching it, and all of a sudden the film stopped and the film flipped upside down and ran in reverse. And I was just sitting there going, wow, this is unique. Like, is this sort of the messing with like the film and playing with games? But it turned out the film had actually, because it used to run film obviously, and the film had flipped upside down and caused problems. And so we were ushered out and we had to return later to watch the movie again. I just thought that was interesting, like how I thought it was some sort of really cool gimmick and it turned out not to be, but it was kind of a weird thing to happen anyway. And I think there's a real paying tribute to William Castle in this film, especially with Geoffrey Rush's character. Yes, he is partly based on Vincent Price and the way he performs it, even with a little moustache, and just his over-the-top performance and even his voice. But I do really think there's a tribute to William Castle there as well. I always thought he created Dark Castle, like production company. I thought that was always his, and then they carried it on. But it turns out it wasn't. It was a creation of Robert Zemeckis and Joel Silver, who really wanted to pay tribute to William Castle, a filmmaker and director, a filmmaker and a producer they really liked. And I thought that was really great, to the point that even William Castle's daughter, Terry, was co-producer on this movie. And I thought it brings it full circle, like doing a remake of it, paying homage to the man who created the original and bringing on someone from his life. And I think that's really cool. There's three guys who form KNB, and they do most of the prosthetic work that you see. They've worked on some of the Romero's Dawn films. They've worked on Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk to Dawn. Anywhere you see actual really great prosthetic work, it's usually these guys doing it and coming up with it and creating it. And I love the fact any film that they do, the practical effects are fantastic, and they are fantastic in this movie, and I really love that they're involved in something like this and are the perfect choice to recreate something kind of like this that's a little different from the original. The film was made for 19 million but only went on to make 3 million, so at the box office. Yet again, another 90s film. I guess this is a remake and it's horror. That didn't do real well either. But it's a film that is talked about, a film that is really simple, effective and well done. It has a run time that William Castle would usually have, an hour and 25 minutes. And I think that's perfect because they really encapsulated and told a really great story in a short period of time, which William would have done in his day. And this film marked the first produced film by Dark Castle production company, and they would go on to do other films as well, and a lot of new ones, and are still producing today. But every time I see that symbol now, I just think of William Castle, and I think that's really... The film definitely had a solid cast. Jeffrey Rush is really great. Ailey Larder is really good in the film as well. Famke Janssen is really sort of this femme fatale, sort of dark and twisted character who's really out to get a husband, played by Jeffrey Rush, and I kind of like her performance here. It's very theatrical at times, but also very conniving and very dark and sinister, and I love that about her. There was people like Bridget Wilson was another one, Peter Gallagher, Chris Canton. All of these people were kind of known in different circles, but really hadn't shone too much after this film, except for Ailey Larder and obviously Jeffrey Rush and Famke Janssen. Well, Famke Janssen was sort of known by this time. For those who haven't seen it, or the original, the plot follows a group of strangers that are invited to a party at an abandoned asylum by amusement mogul Stephen Price, played by Jeffrey Rush. They are offered $1 million to stay the night. If they can stay the night, they receive the money. If they can't, then whatever is left will be divided up between everyone else. As usual, things start to escalate and get out of control, and ultimately becomes a fight for their life, not just for the money, but to survive the night. They must band together to fight the unspeakable evil that is hidden within the asylum. There's so many great scenes in this film. I love the opening where we get to see the asylum running and all the darkness and twisted stuff that happens. The patients break out and start only killing the staff, but it kind of sets up the history behind the asylum itself and what transpired there. And then it shifts into this sort of true crime documentary style film. And I kind of like that. That way it's kind of making it like it's true, you know what I mean? Like this really happened in this place, blah, blah, blah. And that gives Famke Janssen's character the idea to have the party there. And obviously, you know, things transpire from there. But I just think that's a really solid and interesting and fun and prosthetically brilliant opening. And I also like when we first meet Jeffrey Rush's character, and he builds roller coasters and he brings his film crew in to experience this roller coaster he's created. And this sort of gimmicky thing where he pretends everything's going bad and things like that, and they're all going to die and such, and everyone starts to panic. But it's sort of a gimmicky thing, but it sets up the type of character he is, that he likes to play games, he likes to mess with people, he likes to have people fearful. So when we get to the asylum and these weird things are starting to happen, we start to question whether they're really evil spirits and ghosts or if it's him doing it. And I thought that was a really great way to introduce him and show him as a character. And ultimately when they show up at the asylum itself and things start to unfold, this is really where the film picks up for me. Even though I enjoy the start and the introduction to particular characters, this is where the film becomes really fascinating. Because all the people there aren't the people they invited. And some of them aren't what they seem. And I kind of thought that was really cool. It's like, oh, we get this chance to do this. They go there and unwittingly become trapped in the house and they cannot leave because it shuts down. And it's about them sort of trying to work out what's going on, trying to find a way out, trying to survive the night, and trying to like escape whatever evils within the asylum itself. And obviously in these sort of films, one by one, they start getting picked off, but they still put a lot of twists and turns in it. Like Famke Janssen's character, something happens to her, but it's not quite what it seems, and I love that. And she's still trying to manipulate everybody, and just certain things that happen, like creepiness, the way that characters move, to look like ghosts. Spinning saw blade they used to put in front of the camera to make it look like the characters moving were jittering and weren't quite real. I think that's really clever and inventive. And it is so very practical in all its design and the house itself and what happens and the creatures and ghosts within it. But as we get towards the end of the film, it kind of becomes digital. This creature sort of appears that was kind of inspired by something from H.P. Lovecraft. And the digital effects just don't hold up anymore. They don't look great. And I just feel like going from practical effects to computer animated effects just doesn't work for me. And that's one thing I didn't overly like. Even though I liked what they were doing, a particular entity of all of them mixed together, of all the dead, all the evil, all the spirits within the asylum forming into one tentacle sort of creature. I thought that was okay. It just didn't look great in my opinion. And it's kind of keeps you guessing a lot of the film, and I like that. And I love the feel, the look of it, and the way they sort of create suspense and horror is really cool. There's a lot of stuff that's shot off camera, so you don't quite see it. Like Bridget Wilson's character, she's filming down this hallway to capture this thing, and then as she's filming, she looks through the camera and she sees them operating on someone, and then she looks past the camera and there's no one there, and then they all turn and look at her, and just this whole sequence is really cool. And when they go to find her and the camera's smashed on the ground, there's a little blood that goes up on the roof. Like, there's some really cool things in it like that. A lot of the deaths are really, really interesting and cool. There's just a lot to like about this film. And I really need to rewatch the original and have a bit of a talk about that as well, because I think that's a really interesting concept and really well done. But as remakes go, this is definitely one of the best in my opinion. They paid homage to the original, but they also did their own thing and crafted a really interesting and unique film that is just a different interpretation to what William Castle created in the original film. I'm going to give House on Haunted Hill Remake 3.5 out of 5. Another really solid film that didn't do well at the box office, but a film I enjoy nonetheless, a film I return to. And it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it, if you like that sort of haunted house horror type film. It's definitely worth having a look at. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe down the bottom, follow me on Letterboxd and Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.